All right, guys, welcome to our private money lending series. I'm Ashlee Bryant, and I've got Ashlee Edwards with Lenders and Friends here with me. And today we are going to be talking about why you are not getting the capital and the funding that you need. And it's not because of your relationships. It is not because you're not smart enough. It's not because you have a good deal. It is because you are skipping some of the most important details and legal just red flags. And so me and Ashlee are going to be talking about those today. So, Ashlee, why don't you just really quickly tell them a little bit about you and Lenders and Friends?
Yeah, I can do that. Thanks for having me. So, my name's Ashlee Edwards. I am the co founder of Lenders and Friends, which is a private money lending community composed of private lenders, of course, and then industry professionals such as investor borrowers, title companies, brokers, all types of people. And we have cultivated a space where we are funding deals, learning more, and connecting with one another. So happy to be here and excited to talk about the red flags.
Yes. Yes. So today we want to share with you guys a few of the legal red flags that actually kill the funding that you actually have right in front of you and how you can really fix that before you even get ready to ask for that private money. So I'm excited because Ashlee has done several different deals. And as you've heard, she has created such an amazing community where other people are doing deals as well. She also has a private lending accelerator where she teaches people how to lend their money and make money doing so. Ashlee, I want you to kind of just talk to us about what is maybe the number one thing that you are seeing right now that ends up blowing a whole deal up at the table before they can even get to the finish line. Because I know it happens in real estate all the time. I've had it happen to me, but
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm happy to talk about that. I think one thing I should say though is that so I am an attorney by trade, and so I am trained to be skeptical. Okay. So just
she said I'm trained to be
I'm
skeptical.
literally trained to doubt everything that the person is saying, right? So when a person requests funds from me,
Yeah.
it's almost like my antlers are already up, right? I'm like, oh, what
Hmm.
they doing over there? What they talk about, right? And so I have to go
Actually,
verify everything, literally. Okay, so I think from a private lending perspective, just make sure you have that hat on, that hat of skepticism, because it can be
yeah.
really exhilarating and really exciting to be
Yeah.
funding deals and looking at things and feeling like you're doing something, but let's not hurt ourselves. So, some of the things that I
Don't
see,
give away your money too fast.
yeah, don't do it too fast. So, one of the main things that kind of turns me off from a lending perspective is complicated ownership structures. So,
Mm,
if someone comes and they want to get funding for a transaction they're doing, the collateral that they're proposing for the
yeah,
deal needs to be very clear and who owns it and who's signing for that ownership. So
got it.
it's funny, I see on Instagram a lot of these consulting companies will be like, yeah, you need a holding company that's owned by a trust with a Wyoming this and a land trust and a
Yeah,
that, and all this stuff. And so if I see that, look, I'm going to be like, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to basically make this property inaccessible in case you don't pay your
right.
debt? Because if that's your goal, why would I wanna
So,
work with you?
yes. Well, but wait a minute, because I love a Wyoming LLC.
I know.
She said, "I
Yeah.
know."
Yeah.
But but what if I that is real because some people have been I know I was, right? Like, and not initially, because I did my own LLC back, like, by myself in 2017, but and I've just kept it, but it was rolled into a Wyoming holding company, all of that. But there also are some where I'm like, there's extra work. And the more I have matured and I'm like, I'm more responsible, I'm like, I know I don't have the capacity to maintain that. So let me just keep this right here in Texas, right? Till I can do more paperwork or it even makes sense financially. But for people who maybe that is how they have everything structured and they're not trying to scam, right? What would you say is like, what makes it simpler for you to just
Yeah.
be like, okay, I get it, right?
Yeah. So what I'm thinking about is not necessarily the state that it's incorporated in or anything like that.
Hmm.
My main question is how easy is it going to be for me if you default to recover my
Mm,
money, right? If
Gotcha.
I'm gonna have to go through 10 company hoops and 5 land trusts, I don't wanna play this game with you, right? Like, I want something that's gonna be very easy for me and my attorney to access if in
Yeah.
case you default or if something happens to you. I don't wanna be fighting with the family about the trust and all this stuff, like, I don't wanna play those games,
Right.
okay? So that's what I mean by, like, simple. So
Yeah.
even if it's a company that owns a company, but the other company is owned by a single person, that's fine.
Okay.
I just
Yeah.
need to be able to easily trace the ownership to a
Of
person.
the Right. Have your affairs in order. It's just like how y'all be leaving your families out to dry when you pass away, right? Now everybody's
Yeah.
fighting because we can't figure out what is going to
Right.
what.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay, so that makes sense. Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's not that I don't want people, because I understand the importance of
No.
asset protection and I get that. But a lot of people sometimes will set up these types of structures to avoid creditors. And I am a creditor. Like,
Yeah.
so, like,
Yeah,
you
and
know?
if you're lending your money, you're becoming a creditor. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So naturally I look at that. So that's one of the first things that I think is a red flag for me, like if it's just
Mhm.
legally messy. The second thing is if there's existing liens on the properties that were not disclosed. So something that I'm seeing a lot is people just not paying their property taxes. Like just being
Why would
like
y'all lose your house over property, just the property taxes? There's so many strategies you could listen.
just being like, "Oh, I thought I paid that," or, "Oh, that's weird." Like, I'm like, "Yeah, that is weird. Like, why did
It
you pay the
is. We're gonna stop doing it.
Yes, exactly. So that is naturally a red flag for me. Like if I go look up the collateral and I'm seeing 2 years of back taxes, like I don't like
Oh,
that because
right.
first of all, the property is probably already has a tax lien on it because
Mm,
the county wastes no time. Okay.
yeah, they're
And
quick.
I mean, it's very state specific, but a lot of these counties will throw your property up at a tax deed auction as fast as they can. They don't care about your mortgage or whatever, you know? And
Yeah.
so it also just indicates a lack of
Financial
having it
responsibility.
yeah, like, having it
She
together,
was trying to say it a
I
nice
was trying to
way.
say it nice, like, are you keeping track of things? Like, do you have your ish
Yeah.
together kinda thing?
Yes.
How did this slip through the cracks, right? Like,
Right.
paying your property taxes and that I mean, it could sound a little bit judgmental, but you have to remember, I'm thinking from the perspective of I'm giving you
Yeah.
my money so that you can do a deal, and so if you're not diligent in your dealings, like, it doesn't look good, it doesn't feel good, you
Yes.
know? So, that's another big one.
Yeah.
What else? I see a lack of clear exit strategy. That's a
I
red
tell
flag
people
for
that
me.
all the time. Yes.
Yeah. Or they're relying on a single exit strategy. They're like, no, I am for sure going to be able to exit this way. I'm like, okay, well,
Yeah.
have you been watching the news? Because last I checked, they were struggling over there with the inventory, right? Like, so do you have a backup plan or can you create one? And if the borrower is just so rigid and unable to create a second plan or their numbers are just so tight that it can only work one way, I don't like that.
Right.
That doesn't feel good to me either because I'm like, what if that plan doesn't work?
Yes. Yeah.
How are you gonna pay me
Yes.
back?
Right, exactly, and I will say, how am I gonna make the money back? And I will say, for me, even because I am someone who actually I will join teams to help raise capital and bring in capital for my network, but a lot of things that people don't realize is, like, those are my investors, right? And they trust me to find something that is, of value and that is actually going to bring them a return. And so one thing that, like you said, that I see a lot is that people don't have a clear exit strategy. You're just like, no, this is just a really good idea. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, well, no, how are we going to exit up out of this? But then also for me, I even look at the other operators that may be on my team if I'm joining into multifamily. And because everyone should be helping with raising capital, right? And I know that
Yeah.
one thing I look for is even just from an emotional and physical standpoint, what is the real level of capacity that you have? Because
Yeah.
I'm even saying this from experience. And like you said, it's not to be judgmental, but I think that's also why one of our core values in this space is the accountability piece, because I think it also is calling us to a higher standard and keeping
Yeah.
us on our toes. But I've been at that point where as I've grown, I'm like, it made no sense for me to be forgetting X, Y, and Z, right?
Yeah.
But when you are extremely over like leveraged, you're overstimulated, you're trying to do everything all the time. So like I pay attention to, sometimes it's like, wait, are you just in a season where maybe it is a heavy load, right? You're carrying a
Yeah.
lot, you're trying to maneuver that. Or are you always jumping on board to something new?
Mm.
That is like
Yeah.
huge. It's like, yeah, you're probably not gonna get the money
Yep.
back, or even from, if you're asking for the money, investors will feel like you're not gonna execute, that
Yeah.
you're not going to finish it out all the way. So I think that that is like, that's such a huge thing, what you said on that. It was
Yeah,
big.
and that's what you learn from building the relationship over time, right? Because the only
Yeah,
way we're gonna be able to see that type of information and those types of patterns is
yeah,
from constantly building and learning about a person. And
yeah.
so, unfortunately, it's like the more time, the more you know for better or worse, but
Yes,
hopefully for better though, hopefully for better. But
yes.
sometimes it's like, I think I know a little too much and I don't really wanna do
Y
this. I've had that too. Like I've had people that I'm very familiar with, friends,
Mhm.
request funds for their fix and flip. And look, the state was fine, the
Yeah,
deal type was fine, the numbers were fine. But when I looked at their track record
yeah,
and it wasn't that successful, or I know their primary income source and I don't feel confident that
yeah.
if the slightest thing changed, they'd be able to pay me back, like I can't do it. Like I just
Yes.
and it's not personal. It's usually never personal. It's usually just
No.
numbers aren't numbering. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, that is also a real thing too, and I find even a lot of, like, my mentees or people that I talk to is the numbers. They try to make the numbers work. I used to, like, be that person, and it's like, you try to make, and it's like the numbers are not, it's not working. And
Yeah.
so, I will say, what would you say that they definitely need to be fixing about their numbers before even asking for that private money?
First of all, the numbers need to work in more than one way, right? So that's that multiple exit strategies. In terms of fix and flip specifically,
Yeah.
I think you should assume that the lender is going to double check your work. So more often than not, the
Mm,
person requesting funding they'll come forth and they'll be like, this is the purchase price and this is the ARV. And sometimes they don't even give you comps. They'll just be like,
yeah,
and this is my rehab budget and blah 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 blah. And I'm like,
yeah,
okay, and what are the comps that you use to get to this ARV? And sometimes they don't have them. Red flag. I'm like, then how'd you get this number? Like, where is
yeah,
it coming from? Like, can you give me a analysis? Like, do you have anything? Because I'm gonna run my own numbers, right? And
right.
sometimes I'll even pay a contractor to go out and give me a scope of work so I can compare it to the scope of work that you've provided. It's $100. Sometimes it's free. Sometimes they'll do it for free. Like, and so if I'm looking at your scope of work, and first of all, there's no
Mhm.
contingency line because apparently everything's gonna be perfect and nothing ever goes wrong. I'm like, red flag. What's going on
Yeah,
here? Like, why is there no contingency line item in the budget? And then if I'm looking at the numbers that you have for things and I'm like, there's no way that you're going to be able to get wood at this price given everything that's going on. Like
y'all Google, research, look it up, go to the stores. I will go into, like, Home Depots, or just I schedule time to just research different, like, just materials. Like, I'm in due diligence on a project now, and it's like I was in a 7-hour whole long, like, housing commission here, because I'm like,
yeah,
I need to find out what's happening, or what's, because like you said, I'm like, I know I'm gonna have to borrow on this, and they are going to come catch me at these angles. So
yeah, exactly. Because at the end of the day, we just want to protect ourselves, right? We're not
exactly.
big institutional lenders. We can't take a $50,000 blow the same
Mhm.
way that a bank can, right? And they're
Yeah.
out there giving unsecured loans. Like I'm loaning
Yeah.
out my retirement money. Okay.
Yes.
So, like, it's
Yeah.
important. And so when the numbers don't make sense, it's fine, but if I come to you and I propose new numbers and we can't have a respectful conversation, red
Mm,
flag, right? If you're too prideful and your ego is so big that you
yeah.
can't consider anything I'm saying, but you want my money, like, what are we doing here? Like, it's not,
Listen.
it doesn't
Listen,
work.
yes. I was telling this story on my stories a little bit back, and I shared an experience of how when I had first invested into like the most money that I had ever invested into a mastermind, 5 figures. And it was because I was ready to step into the multifamily, the commercial space just on a bigger level. And I knew I needed to like understand. I'm like, okay, I've done wholesaling, fix and flips, but I had to
Mhm.
be real about, girl, you ain't done no big, and now I didn't realize that it's not as much more complicated as everybody tries to make it. But at that time, I didn't know that. And I will remember in one of the sessions, everybody had to give like their PI statement, like, what is your personal income? Like, basically, what is your net worth and what do you have? And they were saying, these are things you want to look at when you bring on as you're forming your team. Because in multifamily, typically, when we're going to form a syndication or a fund of fund, different things like that, I'm not trying to take down a 50 property, even, but for some people, they can do it alone. But 100 plus doors, taking down an apartment, it just doesn't make sense to try to do all that lead work on your own, right?
Mhm.
Real estate, I feel, is such a relationship based like business, all businesses, but real estate will teach you, it will force you, right? So having to know that, and I didn't even know what it was, honestly. And
Yeah.
looking at it, I felt so embarrassed by that. I'm like, and then y'all know I was the only one really looked like me.
Dang.
Listen, so I was like, "We cannot be out here like this." But
Yeah.
I had to acknowledge that uncomfortability, and, like, I am so blessed and I still am building relationships with those people that were in there, and I was even having a conversation with one of the ladies who was with me in that group and talking about just how far I've come from that moment 3 years
Mhm.
ago, but that was so embarrassing, but it wasn't embarrassing in a way that somebody was trying to belittle me or criticize
Yeah.
me, right? So to your point, private money lenders and just the general, like those mom and pop lenders, they're not trying to be judgy or over the top. They're protecting
Yeah.
their capital. But I want us to also reframe it as it's also calling you to a higher level and a higher
Right.
standard, right? Because I promised myself after that, I knew I would know what one was the next time, right? Like I would be
Right.
prepared. So it made me like have to go and get these things done and go look at it. But you can't actually fix things if you don't ever like own up to the fact that, oh, I did not know that, and it's like
Yeah.
those same people still like teammate with me or partner with me on things. So
Yeah,
yes.
I agree with that. I like that reframing of it's calling you to a higher standard because it's true. And I think that if we want to be in that space, those higher level spaces and make those
Yeah.
higher level returns and live
Yeah.
just a higher level lifestyle, like we should be called to a higher standard. I
Mhm.
believe that. Yeah.
Yep, and we have to earn it. I think look at it like how we wanna teach our kids, right? Your job requires you to show up at a certain time, to meet a certain like, every day you have to exchange something for that money, so you
Yeah.
definitely cannot be out here getting defensive when you're asking to borrow money,
Yeah.
like, at all.
I think part of it too, honestly, is because I'm a woman.
Yeah, mhm.
I think that sometimes men just don't take me as seriously, especially if they don't know me.
Mm,
So it's kind of a double whammy. First of all, I guess I look young, so I've heard. And then I'm a woman on top of it. And it's like they're like, wait a minute, what? Like you gonna tell
yeah,
me about blah blah blah. And I'm like, I have a brain too, first of all.
right.
I'm also
You're
a real
gonna
estate
lend money to
investor.
me, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's how they look at you.
Yeah, and they're fine with you just agreeing with whatever they say and then you handing over the funds, right? But what they're
Right.
not fine with is you having your own opinion about
Mhm.
certain things or you questioning their numbers or whatever,
Yep.
right? And I think that is and it's not everyone, right? I've had
Yeah.
wonderful experiences with certain men,
Yeah.
who are borrowers, but sometimes, like, if you just get those vibes, I'm like, "I already know this isn't gonna work." Like, I could just tell.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
You
yeah,
don't be so arrogant that you, like, blow, like, the best opportunities,
yeah.
and I think that it's so key, it's so key, and this is going to be the types of conversations and things that we're diving into when we get to Miami in April. I am so excited, and you guys, we've got a couple of more series videos that we're gonna be giving you guys and bringing to you, and so you guys make sure you stay tapped in. And of course, you get to experience Ashley at the event, and we are going to be having even a private lender lounge. Okay. So you guys are wanting to connect with a private lender. Maybe you're wanting to lend your money. I have many of you who have opened up to me about wanting to do that, or you're wanting to understand, okay, let me be able to be prepared for all the different things and expenses that you will have or opportunities that may come your way that you're actually wanting to invest into, because that is really the only way we're going to actually scale our businesses, scale the portfolios, and actually have money and wealth set aside so that we have, for me, I think it's the freedom of choice, right?
Mm,
I can choose where I stay, where I live, what I accept,
mhm.
right? What government I have to follow. This
Whatever.
is what so listen, this is what we are talking about. Okay, y'all, day 2 of power. That's because I want you to understand that nobody have the power but you, right? And
Mm,
I firmly believe that I can walk out of situations I do not like if I arm myself up enough, right? And it's
yeah,
not about wanting power in a selfish way, but it's just about realizing that this is how you don't let somebody else control your life, right?
yeah.
If it works for them, it can work for us. And there are people who have shown us that look like us that it works for them. And I mean, even with Ashley, like your journey, your story, I always think is so great because you're like, for one, you're a lawyer, so you're taught to be sketchy, about things, yet you still are lending your money. She's done
Yeah,
almost 30 loans. She's still
yeah,
lending out her money, right? Because she still sees the power in it and how it is continuing to expand and grow her portfolio and everything that she is building. She's got a long-term vision. So I think it's just so amazing. I appreciate you spending time with us. Is there anything else that you want to leave before we wrap up? Anything else you want to share? Red flags, things you want them to walk away with?
yeah. Just look at things with a skeptical eye, right? It's
Yeah.
okay. Most deals that come your way are not perfect, but if you work together with the investor,
Yeah.
you can help make it better, right? It's a
Yes.
team sport. So it's not always just, oh, I don't like this. I'm not going to fund it. It can be a
Yeah.
conversation and maybe things can change and you can get to a place where everyone's happy. So just something to think about.
Yeah, I like that. And I think I will say, I want to kind of just for a quick second, because I do think that's true. I know for me, there have been some times I have structured something away because that's what I knew or that's what I thought was best. Like, I don't know a lot of what it looks like from the other side, right?
Hmm.
But if I would not be opposed to someone coming in and saying, "Have you thought about doing it this way?" Right? For people who maybe are a little bit more introverted or shy, they're a little bit worried. What are some ways that you can help future private money lenders kind of prep to like sneak those things in there or ask those questions in a way where it feels more comfortable or natural?
Yeah, I think one of the things I like to do is like, are you open for feedback or suggestions?
Yes.
Because more often than not, they say yes. But what it does is it helps them get into a mental space of being able to receive feedback, right? And so it kind of
Yeah.
lowers the defenses. And so
Yes.
I like to do that even outside of private money lending. I'll just be like, are you like, can I make a suggestion? Or are you open to feedback? Or, do you want
Yeah.
me to just listen? So that's one way. And then another way is just to think about it as if it's your own deal, right? Like,
Yeah.
how would you do this, right? I had someone bring something to me and they had this whole genius idea planned out and everything. And, they brought it to me. They were like, and this is what we're going to do. And, da, da, da. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, so that's illegal. Uh huh. So we're not going to do that. However, I think this can work if we do it this way." And they were like, "Oh my god,
Yeah.
it's illegal?" I was like, "Yes, unfortunately, it's totally illegal."
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't know what you don't know.
So sorry.
Yeah.
I will not be with you at the SEC. I will not. And they were just like, "I'm so sorry." I was like, "It's okay, like, you didn't know, you
Yeah.
know?" And
Yeah.
so, thinking about it in terms of, like, if I were the one setting this up, what are the risks involved, you know? What are the things I can do to make it better? What are my different
Mhm.
options I'd be looking at? And having a conversation. It's really more like a consultation, when you're working with a borrower anyway. Because I mean, now
Yeah.
you all up in their business, you know? They're asking you for
Yeah.
money, you gonna be in there, so y'all are
Yeah.
working together. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. I love that. That's really good. That is good stuff. Okay, so thank you so much again, Ashley, for joining us. I am super excited. I keep saying that, but y'all know that's like my line. Y'all and super excited. But for what everything that we have coming up and everything that you've got going with lenders and friends that's coming up, you guys make sure you're
Yeah.
following Ashley. Again, we're putting everything in the show notes about her lenders and friends website where you can keep up. If you're looking to get into the private money accelerator, that's something you're looking at doing. Make sure you tap into that and tap in with her. And we will see you in the next video.